meeting of the Southfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors. The first item on the agenda is the minutes from April 18th, and again, we'll have to have Tony here before we can get the proper vote for that. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing notice for 7 o'clock of the Conservation Commission, the notice of intent for ProDrive interim utilities, which we heard about a little bit at our last meeting and are giving a more detailed view of today. So I'll turn it over to VHB.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the public hearing.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Gene Crouch. I'm a senior environmental scientist with Van Essing and Dressel. And what we have in front of you is some utility work that is being proposed to support the ProDrive development. The site itself is just to orient you. This is the East Mat location, which is the kind of large circular pavement area in the, I guess, well, Steve's going to point it out.
Right up here.
Is right in there. So we're up on the upper corner of it. The figure here you can see has area that's in white and area that's in shaded. And the white area is the central development area, or central redevelopment area, which is subject to the SRA jurisdiction. The gray out area is the perimeter area, which was set aside as open space. In this case, it was set aside to Weymouth. So any work within that area is subject to the Weymouth Conservation Commission. So what we're going to be looking at, or talking about, is really this work here and this work down here. And in fact, the gray or the green area are the wetland areas. The green line that sort of outlines it is the buffer zone. So any work within that green line is subject to the jurisdiction. What we have is a number of utilities are bringing a water line in from
Union Street.
Union Street, yes. Bringing it down through an existing utility corridor, which comes out to the FAA site that's out there. We're going to follow that same corridor, come out into the paved East Mat area, bring it over to the proposed building location, and then there's also a water line for a loop that was requested by the city, by Weymouth, and then also there's a sewer line and a gas line that's going to be coming in through this, the lower portion of the East Mat as well. So what we're looking to do here that's in jurisdiction one is put this small section of water line in within that buffer zone, add an electric line as well, a power line, which will be up on the existing poles coming down into the site, with the exception of these three locations where there'll be new poles will be installed. And actually, I've got, this is a little closer up view of it. So this is, again, this is the wetland area. Let me stand on this side, maybe I can get out of everybody's way. So this is the wetland area. This is the buffer zone to that wetland area. This is the water line coming down the existing right-of-way out into the East Mat. And then this would be the overhead power line that would be coming into the other side of the proposed ProDrive building. These circles I put in there just to highlight the four utility poles that are needed for this work. Only two of them are actually in the buffer zone. These two are outside of buffer zone.
Gene, may we should point out the FAA location?
Yeah, the FAA is like right here.
Right.
That's the dome radar system.
What, last week, or last meeting when we discussed this, we were told that for the above ground utilities, that the poles were already existing. Are most of them existing?
Yes.
These are the
Yes.
4 new ones? Okay.
Yeah, all coming all the way down through here and out to here are existing. These 4 are the only ones that don't exist that won't be needed.
Does FAA have to have an approval of replacement of, input on replacement of the poles as well?
Well,
All wires, yeah.
they're just being,
I can speak to that. FAA would have control over the existing easement that's in place for height restriction on any new construction. So as long as the pole heights were below any height restriction areas under that existing easement, the work would be authorized, and I believe we've confirmed that is the case, that there's no issue with the existing easement in place.
And there's no, Jim, there's no concern with the power, voltage, wattage, whatever going through there,
Bottom line, do we have a sign off by FAA?
or do we need one?
I don't believe one is required in this case.
Okay.
We are using their right of way, so in essence, we're gonna need
It's
your
applied
permission to
to
use
me.
their right of way. So this is the northern section. The southern area, this is a continuation of there's actually a culvert through here, there's a kind of a ditch that runs around the east mat, it's part of the drainage system. So this wetland has a buffer zone around it, and then we've got, again, coming down through the Weymouth land, we've got a sewer line, a gas line, and the water line that'll be coming through, just going around the edge of, or the bottom line of the little wetland area, and then out into the paved area and over to the building.
And you should show where the erosion controls will be for that particular project.
Yeah, I didn't highlight them. There are erosion controls here and, let me go back.
Let's see.
Is this a touchscreen?
Hey, it's a budget operation here.
Press the button, the up down button up there,
Okay,
it'll take you to a different page.
oh, okay,
Oh,
yeah,
very
there
good.
we have one. Yeah, and then here, I didn't highlight them as I say, but there's erosion controls sort of paralleling the entire length all the way up through the right of way.
On both sides of the existing Woods
Right.
Road.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be coming all the way down through here, down till you get out into the pavement area.
Great.
Excellent.
Any questions from the board? Open it up to comment from the public.
Bob from the water point director of the town. Could you show me how the water line moves around again?
This is it'll be tying in here, it'll
Yeah.
come down, go through, and then come back up
Okay.
and tie into the end of the line, the existing line in the roadway.
Okay, good. And so I guess this is a question for the board. So Weymouth is concerned about the electrical, above ground electrical utilities that come in off of Union. I guess that's Farm Street, they'll cut through that. There's an easement on Farm Street. I was wondering, will the board require them to post a bond so at the appropriate time when they can make full utility connections through the Navy property that those lines will come down? Town of Weymouth does not want to see above ground lines permanently in place on that site. So we want some guarantees that when the electrical utilities get connected through wherever they're coming from, that those lines will come down.
I can speak to that. Mr. Rivas and I have had conversations regarding performance bonds in general, and it would be our recommendation for this particular project to require a performance bond. In fact, we have included that as a special condition in the draft order, and we'd certainly like to include consideration for ensuring more of the temporary nature of the facilities, and we can consider that at that time as well.
Yeah, we talked about that kind of last meeting too.
Right, it's good to note that a large portion of the work is actually proposed to be constructed on property owned by the SRA.
Right.
And it covers a significant area in general, so it's a good case for a performance bond in this situation.
And just for, as you might be aware, obviously you'll be coming before the Weymouth Conservation Commission next
Yeah,
Wednesday evening, and that is the Weymouth portion.
Right.
And so we'll probably be requiring a bond on the Weymouth portion. just wanna make sure we're in sync,
Mhm.
with the SRA.
I think that makes sense. I guess I have a question since last week, or last meeting, this was presented to us as sort of, this is all already there and we're just stringing some additional wires along it. It looks to me on this like there's a significant amount of new, like how many feet of new?
For the length of the overhead wire,
Yep.
but it'll be from the street and then.
So there's not existing overhead on that street?
Well, there is.
There's existing overhead to this facility right here. to the
Okay,
Doppler
and that's
radar tower.
operational?
That's operational.
And it goes down that street?
Correct.
Yes.
So that
So
street
there's-
already has above ground electrical
Oh, yeah,
wiring?
yes, absolutely.
It's really a woods road, so it's a gravel road in the
Okay.
woods.
Oh, so it's a utility road?
That's correct.
That's it,
Basically,
okay.
yeah.
So where is this Farm Street in relation to that? Is the entry point then?
Is the northern part.
Okay, the entry
It
point.
comes off of Union Street. And then those are all existing overhead.
But on the SRA property, it's basically all new?
No.
Not to the FAA.
No.
No, the four, I think, if I could, Tom Berkeley with Elster, I think, both Condyne as well as we represented that all of the, I think the power was gonna be on existing utilities, so I think what Madam Chair referring to are the 4 new poles, that's on SRA, I think.
Right.
Because other than that, everything else is existing, so we certainly didn't mean to misrepresent what was happening, to certainly behind Proton.
So the existing.
But everything's new on the SRA land?
So with respect to the property that's owned by the SRA, which is
Can you go back one slide? Yeah.
which is generally the shaded area, that is all existing poles on the SRA property.
Got it,
You do have a new water line coming in on the SRA property.
This,
okay.
The circles are temporary poles, and they're called out as temporary poles on the plan. So when you're, so in the SRA property, this is the L-Star property. And then
Correct.
So today,
the
where
shaded
is,
area is the L-Star property, the open space.
in
Right.
today's world, where does that utility term right now? Where's the end
Where
point?
does it terminate?
There's an existing
Right there,
utility pole, kind of
That's
where
the
the
last-
woods, and then it feeds the.
right to the
radar
Doppler.
tower.
So you're really extending from that point.
We're stringing
New
overhead
wire.
on the existing poles to that pole.
Okay, so it's all new cable coming in.
We're,
It's a second cable.
Second cable, okay, gotcha.
And our temporary,
Yeah, okay, now that makes a
That
little
makes
more
sense.
sense, yeah.
is there a physical difference between a temporary pole and a permanent pole?
Probably
no, it's,
I just wanted to-
the pole will go in, based on.
It's just marked temporary, just to note it on the plan,
Standards,
not,
right.
not on construction standard.
Sometimes they're shorter, sometimes
So does number 29, in the conditions, give us enough latitude to have a bond that requires, that would cover the cost of the removal?
I believe
of
so,
these?
Jim, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we've left it
We've left it very
fairly
open for
flexible
all
in that case.
Right,
Yeah.
So does Weymouth have a particular amount in mind?
Not yet. I mean, it'll be, whatever it is, it'll be a reasonable number, whatever
Okay.
the cost is. It's gonna be a cost.
And have we?
and so that bond will hold that until the utilities are replaced by more permanent utilities?
And not to beat the dead horse though, but have we constructed poles under this Doppler without FAA approval before? Do we need the FAA to sign off that they're finding this?
there's an easement that controls the height of
Mhm.
obstructions within a certain distance of the Doppler radar tower, and will be below that restricted height.
Okay, so you both feel you're compliant?
That's correct. As you may recall, with the sports recreation complex, there were some lighting stations that we were required to get approval from the
For the height.
FAA because there was a height issue,
You went over
but
it?
it's
Okay.
not in this particular case.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments from the public? Yes.
I just have a question because that ditch goes all the way around that circle part, and there are places where it goes into a culvert and there's land over it, but the ditch still carries on. and goes past the road that comes off of the cul-de-sac that used to be behind the fence and still travels along. There's drainage ditches, and it goes into what's called the North Feeder Stream, but are you gonna tunnel under that culvert? Are you gonna tunnel the water and sewer
Yes.
pipes underneath
Yeah.
this
Right. so-
waterway?
This, what you're talking about is here, is this stream ends in a culvert and then continues on down to the next culvert that's a little further south. So we are coming around and under that existing culvert, and we wouldn't be touching that culvert. The plan is not to adjust that or touch it, and so they can continue to function the way it does now. And the same thing would be true coming around here, because this comes out and then eventually goes over. That might be the feeder stream you're talking about?
Yes.
Goes into the small,
Old Swamp River.
Swamp River, thank you. Yeah, we would be going under that to avoid any impact to that culvert. Obviously, we don't want to, water flows down through here, it's dry now, but it does flow through here quite a part, large part of the year, so we wouldn't want to stop that.
Gee, where's the nearest residential housing and only the side towards, to Haynes
Well,
Way?
here's the road, and I think this is a house here. Is there one of these?
Every single one of those lots, Jane, also.
Every one of these?
Yeah, is there gonna be?
Yeah.
Go on, can you go back to the other slide? I'm sorry, because it's
Sure.
scale, it's better to scale. Where would those houses?
This one, let me go back to big scale, so you can probably see it better. These are the house lot layouts all the way along here, so
So there's no real impact to.
they're in the woods, or this work is in the woods, but it's well away from the back line of the properties. And it's definitely, we're not touching the woods in between the
Right.
properties and the.
There's that natural
Yeah.
buffer in between.
Yep, it's
Okay.
pretty thick back there too, actually.
All right.
There's an existing service road that parallels the overhead wires, and we've kept to that service road to the extent we could.
I have one more question. Do you happen to know, because there's a lot of houses along that side, do you happen to know how far up that's going? Maybe the house number or the lot number?
You mean like what this house lot?
Where you're starting from on Union Street?
I don't know the road, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
It goes to Farm Street.
Farm Street,
Okay.
which would be right here, which is, I don't know that that's a real road. I mean, well, it's a paper road, I guess,
Well, it
because it's all wooded.
shows as a road on the
Yeah.
assessor's website.
Great. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent for the Pro Drive Interim Utilities Project and issue an order of conditions as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. Thank you both. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing of the Conservation Commission, notice for 7:10 PM, request for amended order of conditions for Market Street and University Avenue, formerly New Main Street, Mass DEP file number SE 081-1174.
I'll make a motion open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. Back to you, Jean.
Thank you. What I'm gonna start with is the new Main Street approval, just to give you orientation. We already, we have an order of conditions currently for this development. This was 2015, I think it was. So this is Memorial Grove. This would be Patriot Highway, Parkway down here, and that cul-de-sac, roundabout is already there. And was built in anticipation of this road coming through. So this was proposed and approved to connect down between Memorial Grove and the Patriot Parkway. since this was approved, it wasn't built, and along with it was a number of utility improvements, drainage improvements, and so forth. Along with that is this red line is a series of large culverts that carry drainage from this wetland area here, which receives drainage from the east pond, down and ultimately goes down to the Tacan outfall, which is several thousand feet away from here. In the middle is this little open pocket of channel that was left by the Navy. This is the hangar number 2, so it's just off from hangar number 2. It's about a 60-foot open pocket in the ground where the twin 42 culverts on this end, and then they pick up again 60 feet later and head on down to the Tacan outfall. So this is what was approved. What we're asking to do is to change that alignment to, oops, too small, to this configuration. It still has the same intersection with Memorial Grove, has a similar alignment, but then would have a cross street that would tie in, and doesn't quite show here, but there's that cul-de-sac, roundabout on Patriot Parkway right here. So where the old one went like this will have a second road which will give it connections on either end, and a little more versatility. That red line down the middle is that existing major culvert. Here's that little pocket of wetland that's exposed, which is the whole reason we're here. Similar to the other development, what would happen is the drainage would be basically picked up from here and run through a new 72 inch, thank you, culvert down the center of the new roadway and then tie back into the pipe. So it would bypass this section and basically eliminate all the drainage from that little wetland.
And Gene, that's already.
And that's already approved. That's already part of the existing order of conditions. So all we're asking to do is reconfigure the roadway network. The drainage network is going to be pretty much the same thing. I will point out that in addition to the drainage network picking up roadway drainage, it has a number of infiltration chambers systems along the edge of the road to pick up that stormwater, infiltrate it, treat it, and then any excess release it into the drainage system that will then continue on down. It results in greatly improved stormwater management of water coming off the road and allows us to meet the stormwater standards. Now, what I did just to sort of help, this is kind of an example of them side by side, or not. Where did it go? Does this have PowerPoint on it?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So these are the two plans. This is what was already approved. This is New Main Street, and this is what's being proposed as the Market Street. The name, we originally permitted this as New Main Street. Weymouth wouldn't allow the street to be named that because there already is a Main Street in Weymouth. So L-Star had to come up with a different name, so that's where Market came. So this is actually Market, and this would be University Avenue in the new configuration. And one other feature is, like I said, all the drainage from this wetland here will be eliminated in the project, as Steve mentioned, is already approved. This would just be left as a hole in the ground with no flow, no connection to it. So rather than just leaving it there, we're asking to fill that in its entirety, because we would end up having to come back and do it again later anyway. So there are plans to, here's the hangar, there are plans to develop that area, which do not include leaving a big hole in the ground.
Any questions, comments from the board? Jim, Steve, anything to add?
No? Nice job.
Any comments or questions from the public? Yes.
And that's still gonna go out to the Tacan outfall, right?
Oh yeah, the drainage will, it's just being picked up here and then connected there, and then it'll continue to flow through to the Tacan outfall.
Okay, there's another open drainage system that is to the west side of Hangar 2, and, well, the southwest,
The ditch,
that has a new outfall to it, where water drains to it. It would be before your, I think, University Ave.
that may, is it,
It would be to move it over to, keep going, not that way,
oh,
come east
east?
on that road that you have
Oh,
right
here?
there, yeah. It would be coming that way a little farther up.
These connections are for catch basins and such, but it looks, this might be a cross connection for, this looks like a driveway for some future access, and with stubs going out into those properties, so that when these are developed and there's a drainage system here, it would tie into that and then continue down to the Tacan, yeah.
Because we're concerned about volume going into the Tacan and any increase in volume because it ends up flooding out neighborhoods in Rockland. So
Sure.
your stormwater has to be very precise.
Understood.
The stormwater plan is essentially the same as what we already approved, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
This is changing configuration, you're not changing,
Well,
there's not a change in peak outflow or
No,
stormwater runoff.
no.
Any other comments or questions? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for amended order conditions for the Market Street University Ave project, formerly New Main Street project, and to issue an amended order of conditions as presented.
second.
Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, that's unanimous. The next item on the agenda for tonight is the treasurer's report, but we do not have any updates tonight. And the following item is the executive director's report, so I'll turn it over to our executive director, Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I want to update the board that we continue working on the redevelopment plan, so we've been working with L-Star on the infrastructure plan and the projections. We've reached out to several consulting firms. We have to bring someone in to do the economic analysis that will accompany that. We will also be reaching out to a public finance asset management company to help us give some advice on how we might look at our existing debt, proposed debt, and might restructure some of that, and potentially bond counsel with that too. So those are three areas where we're going to need some assistance. But the redevelopment plan itself should be completed by October 15th, at which time we will submit that to Administration and Finance for their review. And that's it.
Great work, thank you.
Great. There are no topics that were not anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting, so I'll open it to public comment on issues discussed at tonight's meeting. Seeing none, our next meeting is September 19th, 2018.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Good night.